John Rhys Davis here, Salah in Indiana Jones, and Gimli in Lord of the Rings. Give 'em hell, 3 guys and a flick.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
One ring to rule them all.
One ring to find them. One ring to bring them all.
And in the darkness, bind them.
Three guys and a flick with Duncan and John. Dive into the movies well after the dawn. From the good to the bad to the wildly absurd. They give a fuck about films. Their voices are heard.
Welcome back. You are listening to Three Guys in a Flick. This is where we review the good, the bad, and the absurd. Tonight's episode, The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. Beware spoilers. Coming to you from the Prancing Pony during the Third Age of Middle-earth, my name is Don. Hey, why is that guy in the corner staring at us? Ken, go tell him to fuck off, please.
I'm on it.
And to my right, we have the comic book guy, John.
Howdy ho.
And to my left, we have the professor, Ken.
Hello, everybody.
How you guys doing tonight?
Pretty darn good.
Yeah?
I think in honor of this episode, we all should speak Elfish tonight.
I don't.
Or Elven.
I would love to, but I don't think I can articulate it correct because, yeah, even with the captions on, I have a hard time speaking Elvish.
I will ask you both, do you like my sword?
My sword? Yeah, it's fantastic.
It's a sword of the kings, so it's my sword. You get Sting.
Oh, he thinks he's the king. Hey, Denethor, I'm going to need you to back up just a little bit, bud. Just a little bit. You know what? You can be Gandalf. How about that?
I got kind of hairy feet, though. Maybe I should be Bilbo or Frodo.
Yeah, you are way too tall to be a hobbit. Oh, wait. I think I just painted myself into a corner. Tonight, we are talking about The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, which comes to us via the Bronco helmet from a couple of our listeners, Ezra S. and Matthew O. Thanks for throwing that into the Bronco helmet, and we hope you enjoy the show. John, this was your pick. Why Fellowship of the Ring?
Yeah, why not a musical?
Why not a musical? Well, I thought after we just did probably one of the greatest movies of sci-fi, I want to do what I consider one of the greatest movies of fantasy. This is what Star Wars did for just sci-fi movies in general, of inspiring movies. I felt like Lord of the Rings took fantasy movies to a new level, and it showed what you could do taking a book version and actually bringing it to life in the movies without changing too much, straying from the original meaning and the purposes. I thought it was magic what Peter Jackson did with this movie. I'm also, and I've said this before, I'm also a big fan of mythology, so I love the universe that J.R.R. Tolkien created when he created Lord of the Rings, and it's inspired me actually just even watching these movies and reading the books to go and learn about his whole history and the world and the universe he has created in this. A big fan of it.
Do you guys remember what you thought when you saw us in the theater? Were you slack-jawed and just like, what the fuck?
Yes, completely. Mind blown.
Yeah?
Yeah, I was going into it thinking this has to be at least as good as those, 1970, 1980 animated versions.
I am so glad that you brought that up because as soon as I got done watching Fellowship of the Ring, you know what I turned on?
You didn't.
I did.
Did you?
Yeah, and I got about halfway through it. It's amazing how many shot-for-shots there are from the animated to Peter Jackson's version. And I am one who have never read the books, and I will probably never read the books, but Tolkien must have put in some detail or described the universe, as you say, John, in such a way that whoever did the production design and drew the pictures, I mean, they got the same thing. Mm-hmm. That or Peter Jackson borrowed a lot from the animation.
He said he was very inspired for a lot of the scenes, a lot of the shots.
Released on December 19th, 2001, The Fellowship of the Ring was directed by Sir Peter Jackson. Screenplay by Fran Walsh, Philippa Boyens, and Peter Jackson. Based on the book The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien. Music by Howard Shore. And it stars Elijah Wood, Ian McClellan, Liv Tyler, Viggo Mortensen, Sean Astin, Kate Blanchett, John Rhys Davies, Billy Boyd, Dominic Monaghan, Orlando Bloom, Christopher Lee, Hugo Weaving, Sean Bean, Ian Holm, Andy Serkis, and a bunch of other goblins and orcs.
How'd this movie do, Don?
This movie was made for a mere $93 million and brought in $887 million. So
I believe I read somewhere they filmed all three movies back to back over 400 and something days.
back to back to back.
Back to back to back. So over a year of filming on this one.
Yeah.
On just these three movies.
And I'm so glad that you brought that up because they had a heck of a time trying to get this off the ground. Miramax wanted the rights, and that douchebag Harvey Weinstein knew the guy who currently had the rights. So he made him a deal, who God knows how, whatever. And they get the rights to it, and then they go to New Line Cinema and say, hey, Bob Shea, can you help us out and give us some money? And he's like, who are you going to get to direct? Blah, blah, blah. And Miramax is like, we know this kid, Peter Jackson. And we know this kid because one of the producers for New Line, who produced Nightmare on Elm Street, gave Peter Jackson a chance to write a script for Nightmare 6. They didn't use it, which I thought it was a brilliant script. And we'll talk about it when we get to Nightmare 6. But anyway, he was on New Line's radar. And so they gave it to Peter Jackson. Bob Shea got on board, and Miramax is on board, and bam, they let Peter Jackson go and do pretty much the unthinkable. 3 movies back to back to back.
Never been done before.
Never been done before.
And they didn't even know if the first one was going to succeed. So that was a lot of money to put into 3 movies back to back to back.
Which kind of makes sense because if you think about it, it is one story. And it could theoretically, I guess, be one movie. So, I mean, to break it up into 3 without knowing how it's going to hit, pretty ballsy.
Have you watched the extended versions?
Yes, I have seen the extended versions, and I've watched the appendices. Did you guys ever watch the appendices when it was out on Blu-ray or DVD?
Probably.
It's like 22 hours each movie of extra footage.
Well, I think we should just watch the extended versions back to back for 11 hours. No bathroom breaks, no nothing. Just 11 hours of movies.
If we were flying somewhere that took 11 hours to get to, I would be totally down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But other than that, I can take or leave the extended versions. The theatrical versions for me are perfect the way they are.
You know, I would say for the first one, definitely. Second one, I thought the extended versions, extended scenes were good. Really liked the extended versions also in the third version.
Yeah.
So first one, you don't need to watch the extended ones. They don't really add anything.
Besides Lord of the Rings, do you have a favorite of Peter Jackson's movies?
No. I know him for very little other than Lord of the Rings world.
Can I say The Hobbit?
Sure. It's one of his movies.
I would say that probably The Hobbit followed by The Frighteneers.
The Frighteneers is great.
Which is what he did right before this, or in 1996.
Yeah. I would have to say I enjoyed Peter Jackson's take on King Kong.
Yeah.
I thought that was fun. And Andy Serkis being Kong and Weta Workshop or Weta Digital doing the effects. I mean, Weta is on par with ILM, I would say. I think Peter Jackson is a masterful storyteller. And I say that because this story, the Lord of the Rings story, I think cinematically is masterfully told. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Epic comes to mind.
Yeah. From the opening shot, right?
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Howard Shore, who did the music, he did
so good.
He wrote the music for 2 other movies that we have reviewed. Do you know what those movies are?
Without looking it up, hang on. Was A Few Good Men one of them?
No.
God,
wasn't on my list. No.
Yeah, he probably wasn't. Howard Shore did.
I was really surprised by at least one of them.
I didn't drill down and look all the way. I just looked at his recent stuff.
What were they?
One of them was Big.
Oh, okay.
The other one I was really surprised with.
Nightmare on Elm Street 2.
Dogma.
Oh, yeah.
He did the music for Dogma.
Oh, wow.
So he's worked with our favorite director, Kevin Smith.
Absolutely. We love that guy. Kevin, we love you. What'd you guys think of the music?
That was one of the things, again, people who've listened to the podcast know I'm usually not like thrilled with music. I'm not as much into music as you guys are. This music captures me in this, watching this series. It wouldn't, I think, be as good without the music of Howard Shore.
Oh, it wouldn't be even half as good.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
It's as epic as the movie is.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I had the CD of it, and I would listen to it regularly in the car just because it would take me back to those moments of the movie.
And what I love about this score, and it actually carries throughout all three films, and listeners, we're going to try and not to reference the other two movies too much because we'll get there. But I just will say this. If you notice and you watch, every group of people, and that's probably the best way as I can describe it, have their own theme.
Yep.
The Ring has their own theme. The Fellowship, the Shire,
The elves.
Gondor, Rohan,
Orcs.
Mordor, all of them have their own theme. And they're so interwoven together perfectly that it just, like you said, John, the music is as epic as the movie is.
What do you guys think of Elijah Wood?
I think this whole cast was perfectly cast. You read about some of the other people they were thinking about for some of the other roles. And I mean, just like anything else, you kind of look at it and go, I can't imagine it. But in this instance, I wouldn't replace anybody in this cast.
Agreed.
I think the four hobbits, Elijah, Sam, Merry and Pippin,
Mm-hmm.
their chemistry was so palpable. And just how they cared for each other and how they treated each other. I mean, you felt it. And then you go to the opposite side, right? Christopher Lee is Saruman.
He originally wanted to be Gandalf.
Yeah.
He got Sauron.
Yeah. It was fantastic. I think this movie is perfectly cast.
Yeah, I guess Christopher Lee was a lifelong fan of Lord of the Rings. And really, I mean, he dreamed of playing Gandalf, but I thought he was perfect as Sauron. He was just so vicious and evil.
Oh, he's such a dick in this movie.
Yeah.
Out of all of them, though, I will say my favorite character and probably my favorite actor in this is Aragorn. There's something about Viggo Mortensen's Aragorn that it's hopeful.
Well, he exudes badass.
He does.
And he does it so easily. It's not like he looks like he's even trying. It's just that is him.
It's natural, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's fantastic in this.
Who's your favorite?
Probably Aragorn.
I got to go with Aragorn as well.
Yeah.
It's
And
close because I love Gandalf, but
how can you not?
everybody
right?
loves Gandalf because he's that fun grandpa.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Did you know that Sean Connery was offered $10 million plus 15% of the trilogy's gross if he had taken the role as Gandalf? But he turned it down. That would have been $210 million if he had taken it.
Well, I'm glad he did turn it down because I don't think he would be a good Gandalf. I think he would be Sean Connery in a beard.
Well, he basically said the reason he turned it down was he just didn't understand it at all.
Yeah, well, neither did Bob Shea, but he threw out half of $93 million. So what are you going to do? Viggo Mortensen was a last minute. They got Stuart Townsend to play Aragorn, and Peter Jackson watched some of the footage and goes, I'm not feeling it.
He's too young.
And Viggo's son at the time was reading Lord of the Rings or had read Lord of the Rings. He said, Dad, you got to fucking do this, dude. What the fuck are you thinking? And thank you, Viggo Mortensen's kid, because Aragorn, forever in my head, will be like one of my top 3 heroes of all time.
I guess he is one of those kind of method actors that really gets into his role. Did you hear what he did, like sword-wise, to help him, stay in this role?
He carried it with him everywhere he went, and he would get stopped by cops all the time because he's walking around with this fucking longsword. But God bless him. God bless him.
What did you think of Magneto as our Gandalf?
I don't think there could have been another person to play this. Gandalf is he's such a dynamic character, and I think that a lot of the conversations he has and just his presence and his whole being was phenomenal. What do you think, Gandalf?
He was fantastic in this. His character is just so rich and vibrant. I think probably, he is unquestionably the unparalleled leader of the group. And when he is taken from the story, I remember feeling so crushed in the theater.
Me too, because I'd never read the book, so I didn't know. And heartbreaking. Give them a moment for pity's sake.
Yeah,
So good.
it was definitely heartbreaking, but unfortunately, I had read the books, so I knew what was going to happen. So I kind of had that little lesser blow knowing that he'd be back. But it was just the excitement of how are they going to bring him back? How are they going to show that in the movie?
Yeah.
And we'll get into it, as you said, when we talk about the next movies. But just the way they brought him back worked for me.
Ugh.
Orlando Bloom as Legolas.
I thought Legolas was fine. He doesn't have much to do in this flick. So I think that his camaraderie with Gimli is fun.
Of course.
And it's building. And I will say he gets better as the trilogy goes on.
Sure.
But in this one,
It's not until the third act.
yeah. And really, he's just kind of there. But I dig him.
For him, I think you're absolutely 100% correct in that we don't really get a good feel for him. But when he starts interacting with Gimli in the later movies and they have that little duo going on, that's when I really fall in love with those characters.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Did you know that John Rhys Davis, he was the tallest of the cast? He was 6'1".
Yeah, he's fucking solid.
He's the dwarf, yet he's the tallest.
And yeah, he's so good. The filming techniques that they used and created and did for this movie was revolutionary. And I believed that Gimli was 2 feet tall. So
I do want to know, has Sean Bean ever been in a movie or TV series that he didn't die?
You know, I was thinking about that last night and I can't. Oh, yes. Pixels.
I don't even remember him being in Pixels.
He's one of the army guys in the UK.
Okay.
So, I mean, if that counts, I found one. But other than that, no, this dude's always dying.
I mean, I'm thinking of like Game of Thrones and some of the other movies. It just never lasts very long.
Yeah.
One of the other castings that I was surprised about regarding Galadriel, I didn't know Lucy Lawless almost had the role.
I know. Wouldn't that have been something?
That would have been strange to see Xena in that role, but she was pregnant at the time, so she had to turn it down.
Yeah. Well, lucky for us, Kate Blanchett said yes, and she is Galadriel. And yeah, I love me some Kate Blanchett.
This movie is released in December, and I was surprised that it was released so late in the year, and the fact that it still made that year $208 million. It came in at number 5 for the top grossing movies for 2001.
In 10 days? You know what I mean?
It cranked.
Or whatever, how many days that is.
And then in 2002, it came in at number 3 with $262 million. And you put both of those together, that's $470 million, which means that it was a freaking titan in the 2000s.
Did you know, speaking of money, that J.R.R. Tolkien originally sold the film rights of Lord of the Rings for how much in 1968? Do you have a guess?
$200.
Do you have a guess?
$10,000.
Close. He sold it originally for about $15,000. He sold all the rights to Lord of the Rings, which would be around now maybe $150,000.
Yeah, well.
Okay, so you think about how much this movie went on to make and how much it's probably worth for Lord of the Rings, just the series. He sold it for so cheap. His family have been kind of fighting for the rights and fighting for control ever since then.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a fucking juggernaut.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This movie was nominated for 13 Academy Awards, but only comes home with 4. It's not a great percentage. Out of curiosity, do we know what the big winner in 2002 was?
Beautiful Mind. It won picture and director.
Yeah. And I guess back then, fantasy was just starting to be accepted. And with Beautiful Mind, you have Ron Howard and Russell Crowe.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. But however many years later, the Academy makes up for it.
So, as I mentioned, I am a big fan of the background of Lord of the Rings and the history of Lord of the Rings, and I was surprised to find out that Sauron wasn't the big bad of Lord of the Rings, of the whole Middle Earth universe. He had a boss named Morgoth, and Morgoth actually is the one. He was basically, if you think about it, there was a creator of the Middle Earth universe. Then there was like a legion of Valinor that he created, which was, I believe, Morgoth was one of them, or he was one of the Arda that became below him. So it's like a legion of angels underneath him. And he was kind of the Satan that got cast out. and went to the Middle Earth and started seeing, adding evil to the world. And so the Arda basically created what were known as the Maiar, which were basically Gandalf and other characters, and included Sauron to go down and take care of Morgoth. But Sauron ended up becoming Morgoth's second lieutenant, basically.
Wait, are you trying to tell me that Tolkien plagiarized the fucking Bible?
Basically, yes.
Okay.
So yes, he was inspired by his Christian beliefs, as well as he's denied it, but it's easy to see his wartime, the effects that it had on him during World War I when he served in the army, with the PTSD, with carrying heavy burdens, things like that. There's even characters and people he knew in the army that he put into his books. But anyway, as I was saying, Sauron was actually a second lieutenant. When Morgoth got captured and thrown into a pit, Sauron took over and became the number one bad guy in the universe and created the rings and did everything else that he did. It was Morgoth who actually originally he captured some elves, tortured them, and basically instilled evil into them to create the orcs. And that's where we get orcs from. At that time, and this is something that'll come up later and I'll talk about, mankind, humans, worked with Morgoth. They did not work on the side of good. There was just a few humans of the human race, a small percentage of them that did fight with the elves. They were given an island because they helped defeat Morgoth called Númenor. And that's when Elrond later on in the movie refers to the lineage of Númenor. Those people were given the kingdom and made king. That's the line of Isildur that leads all the way to Aragorn, was from that island. And basically, he talks about how even back then, the island, the humans turned against the elves, the island was sunk, and only a few survived, which was Aragorn's lineage. One of the things I mentioned that the orcs and goblins were created from elves, which is kind of brought up in the series. I didn't realize that the dwarves, when this overall, being created elves and created men and created all that, he didn't create the dwarves. The dwarves were created by one of his creations and then hidden away in the mountains. And the god that created them was the god of crafting. And that's why they were such good crafters.
It's the beards.
I will say also that for people who kind of know the lore or have watched the Prime series, Gandalf was one of five wizards basically sent. They called the Maiar, but they were sent to Middle Earth to help mankind and the elves defeat Sauron. There was Radagast that we find in a different movie. There was Saruman, who was supposed to be the leader of the order. That's why he had, he was Saruman the White. He was probably the most powerful at the time of all of them. And then there was two other wizards, the Blue Wizards, who went off to the east and helped influence folks against Sauron and not to serve Sauron. We never get to hear about him because Tolkien died before he could write those stories.
Yeah, well, there you go.
So there you go.
I could talk about this for hours. But if anybody in comments wants to, talk some Lord of the Rings with me and a little bit of Middle Earth history, happy to talk about it.
Hey, Ken, is it trivia time?
I think it is a great time for some trivia. Boy, I tell you what, it's like, this is a long movie. I should choose wisely. What do I want to have? And so I labored over this. How nitpicky do I want to be? How trivial do I want to be?
Well, 34. It's the year it all went down with the Isildur.
I already know with this test I am not going to pass.
I'm going in. I feel like I'm the underdog, but we'll see how it plays out.
I've got so much Lord of the Ring lore in my head that I can't remember the small details.
Ah, all right.
Well, don't say that you shall not pass.
You shall not pass.
That was low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, it was.
That's where I was going.
Question number 1. According to Merry and Pippin, what comes after second breakfast?
Elevensies.
Lunch?
Yes.
Oh, what was-
Question number 2. Besides Bilbo's old sword, Sting, that glows blue when orcs are close, what is Bilbo's second gift to
Mithril.
Tie. Question number 3. According to Gandalf, how long is the journey to the other side of Moria?
4 days.
4
Correct.
4 days? Okay.
Question number 4. How many arrows does Boromir end up taking before he dies?
3.
4.
John. Question number 5. What is the last line said in the movie?
We just might. We just may.
I love you, Sam.
No and no.
Again, hang on.
The last one.
I don't think we'll
said-
ever see him again. We just might, Mr. Frodo. We just might. And then they start walking. I'm glad you're here with me, Sam.
Very close. Very close. Sam, I'm glad you're with me.
Do I get partial credit?
Well, you already edged out over John.
Oh, he likes when I edge him.
So, yes, this week the win goes to Don.
Hey, I gotta compensate for something because I'm just tanking your fucking guesses or your ratings. So I gotta bring it up somewhere. In the second age of Middle-earth, the Lord of Elves, Dwarves, and Men receive rings of power. Unbeknownst to them, the Dark Lord Sauron forges the One Ring in Mount Doom, instilling it into a great part of his power to dominate the other rings and conquer Middle-earth. A final alliance of men and elves battle Sauron's forces in Mordor. Isildur of Gondor severs Sauron's finger along with the ring, vanquishing Sauron and reducing him to spirit form. With Sauron's first defeat, the third age of Middle-earth begins. The ring corrupts Isildur, who refuses to destroy it and is later killed by orcs. The ring is lost for over 2,500 years until it is found by the creature Gollum, who keeps it over 4.5 centuries. The ring eventually abandons Gollum and is discovered by a hobbit, Bilbo Baggins, who is unaware of its dark history. 60 years later, Bilbo celebrates his 111th birthday in the Shire and reunites with his old friend, the wizard Gandalf the Grey. Bilbo departs the Shire for one last adventure, leaving his inheritance, including the ring, to his nephew Frodo. Gandalf investigates the ring and confirms it is the One Ring. He also learns that Gollum has been captured and tortured by Sauron's forces, revealing 2 words in his interrogation: Shire and Baggins. Realizing that Sauron's servants will soon come searching for the ring, Gandalf warns Frodo to leave the Shire. Frodo departs with his loyal companion Samwise Gamgee. Meanwhile, Gandalf travels to Isengard to seek counsel from Saruman, only to discover that Saruman has betrayed him and aligned with Sauron. Saruman imprisons Gandalf and sends out the 9 Nazgul to hunt down Frodo. On their journey, Frodo and Sam are joined by their friends Merry and Pippin. The group evades the Nazgul and reaches the town of Bree, where they are supposed to meet Gandalf. However, Gandalf never arrives, having been taken prisoner by Saruman. Instead, the hobbits are aided by a ranger named Strider, who promises to escort them to Rivendell. Along the way, they are ambushed by the Nazgul at Weathertop, where the Witch King stabs Frodo with the Morgul blade. Just before the wound consumes him, the elf maiden Arwen arrives, taking Frodo to Rivendell, where he is healed by the elves and reunited with Gandalf, who has escaped Isengard on the back of a great eagle. That night, Strider, whose true name is Aragorn, reaffirms his love for Arwen. So this movie opens up with the Lord of the Rings logo, that classic Howard Shore score, and we are given a history of what has happened thus far.
They actually had several of the different actors read it and ended up going with Gladriel's.
And I think that was an excellent choice because Cate Blanchett's soothing voice telling us the story while these epic images are showing us what's happening, I think moves us along very nicely. So from the opening shot, when we see the rings being forged, up until we get to the end of that bit, what stands out?
One thing that I loved was during that big battle scene when Sauron showed up and just started taking out the armies with the swinging of his club.
Yeah, and do you notice that every time he swings, there's just like this big bright light?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he has so much power. Yeah, he's a bad motherfucker, that Sauron.
What's up with Elrond? He's the only one out there without a helmet.
I know. What is up with that? I like when they're telling the story and they're all lined up and the orcs are charging them, and then we see the elves with their swords.
Yeah, that
and
was
it's like
cool.
a dominoes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty fucking
They're
cool.
just so disciplined and perfect.
Yeah, they're the perfect soldier. I think it's a little convenient that Isildur happened to cut off his hand, but if that's the way it's written, that's the way it's
He
written.
got lucky. I mean, the
You
guy,
think?
he breaks his sword, and just so happens the sword is so sharp it can cut those fingers off.
Yeah. And so we are told that Isildur defeats, or what we think defeats, Sauron, and we get this big poof of him going away, whatever. And in the narration, we're told that Isildur doesn't want to destroy the ring.
He takes
And-
the ring for himself.
Yeah. And in the meantime, or while he does that, he gets ambushed and killed, and the ring is lost until Gollum finds it.
Mhm.
And then Gollum loses it, and then we're shown Bilbo finding it. Right? What do you guys think of this whole prologue? Did it flow? Was it too long? Did you love it?
No, I thought it worked.
I agree. I mean, I would have loved, for me personally, I couldn't get enough of this movie. So I would have loved maybe a little bit more. But the fact at that point, we didn't know if they were going to make The Hobbit or not. And so I wanted more of The Hobbit. So I got that later. I'm good with it now.
Good.
You? What about you?
Like I said, we always talk about openings of films, and I consider this the opening because in a minute we're going to get the Fellowship of the Ring title.
Exactly.
And so I think this opening grabs you. It smacks you across the fucking face and says, sit down. You are about to see something so epic. It's going to blow your fucking mind. And sure shit, it fucking does.
And I will say, after watching this opening, one of my, bucket list cosplays I would love to do is Sauron.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I would love to have that armor.
That tracks. And so after we're told the history of the ring, we are introduced to Frodo.
The Shire, and we're told it's 60 years later.
And he's sitting against a tree, and we get that beautiful Shire tune.
Yep.
And it's so peaceful that it just makes me smile every time I see it. And then we are introduced to Gandalf, who's riding into town.
Love their little tune that they play at this point.
What did you think of the whole interaction between Gandalf and Frodo?
I love in the beginning that it seems like, they're not getting along and it's just kind of joking around. And I love that little laughing. I also appreciate the fact that they did something in this movie that hadn't really been done before. They were trying to figure out how, hobbits are supposed to be so small and humans being a lot bigger than them. They used forced perspective and things, and that had been done in other movies, but never really with a moving object, like sitting in the cart together. And so could you tell that they were basically, Elijah was sitting farther behind Gandalf? Frodo was sitting behind Gandalf and not next to him as the cart was moving.
I can tell now that I know,
Mhm.
but when I didn't know, you're thinking, wow, how they fucking do it. Because it's seamless.
So we get to see a little bit of life in the Shire, and it's so gentle and so happy there.
I love that one guy, and I think he appears in some other movies, who's just the grump, who has the angry, sour face. And then when Gandalf lights off the fireworks for the kids, he starts to smile and then looks at his wife and frowns again.
Yeah. And now we are introduced to Bilbo, because that's who Gandalf was coming to see. And Bilbo, right off the bat, is kind of an old curmudgeon. I don't want any more well-wishers, party guests, or any fucking riffraff. And we're introduced to the whole relationship between...
How about an old friend?
Yeah, the whole relationship between Gandalf and Bilbo. And we know that they've been friends for a long time. And he is kind of like, I got to do something to shake this up.
Well, Gandalf already knows that there's something with Bilbo, because he kind of knew that Bilbo had the ring. It's revealed in the Hobbit movies that he knew, how Bilbo had gotten out of things, but didn't know it was the One Ring. But obviously it's having an effect because Bilbo has lived a lot longer than hobbits are supposed to live. They don't live 111 years, and he still looks like he's maybe 50 or 60 years old. So he knows something's up, something's going on. That's why another reason why he's visiting and wanting to keep an eye on Bilbo.
Bilbo and Gandalf are talking, and I noticed that all of the hobbits and even Gandalf, they're stoners, right? They're always smoking the pipe weed.
Yeah, they're token away.
Well, even later on, line from Saruman says, "You've been spending too much time with the Hobbit leaf," which is basically their pot.
Yeah. And we cut to the party, and we get a little bit more Frodo, and we're introduced to Sam. And we are introduced to Merry and Pippin, who want to steal the fireworks.
I never caught this. I caught it this time, but when we were at the party, did you catch, I think it was Merry up on stage playing guitar with the band?
No, I didn't even see it. They're having this big old party, and Gandalf's lighting off fireworks, and everybody's having, ooh, ah, right. And Merry and Pippin steal a firework. I thought it was pretty cool, because they set off the firework. It's this big dragon, and then it blows up, and everyone's like, oh.
Well, it's funny. There was a little scream. I can't remember which actor it was. I think it was Boyd. He let off a little scream, and that was something that wasn't in the script. They actually set him up. They told him it was just going to be lights going off and a little bit of sound, and there was a huge bang that went off for the firework. It scared the crap out of him, so he actually screamed.
Yeah. And then Bilbo gets up to give his goodbye speech, and he's kind of being,
He's a curmudgeon.
Yeah, well, I was going to say he's not being sketchy, but he's just kind of being aloof, maybe. I don't know what the word is.
I almost feel like while he's talking, he puts his hand on the pocket where the ring is, and he's feeling that effect. He's realizing he's at the point he's being taken over by the ring.
And he gets up there, does his speech, and he says, okay, I'm out, looks at Frodo and says goodbye, puts on the ring, disappears, and everybody freaks out. And he thinks he's so clever, right? You can hear him giggling as he's walking up and going back to the house.
I love how Gandalf comes in the house and calls him out on his bullshit. Think you're so clever.
Yeah. Gandalf says, what's with this ring, And Bilbo's like, yeah, it's my ring. It's my precious. And Gandalf says, precious. It's been called that before, but not by you. Right. So he's his suspicion, his spidey sense is going off a little bit. Mm-hmm. And Bilbo's getting ready to leave, won't put down the ring. Gandalf has to keep reminding him.
Well, Bilbo even said, he goes, what'd you do with the ring? Oh, it's in the envelope. He's like, no, it's still in your pocket.
Right. And he goes to leave, and he's right at the front door, and finally Gandalf goes, Bilbo, the fucking ring. And my favorite bit about this whole little interaction is when Bilbo drops the ring, the thud it makes.
Yes.
The sound design, so good.
They actually did that with a magnet.
Oh, that makes sense.
They had a magnet in the floor, and it was supposed to represent how heavy the burden of the ring is that it doesn't bounce when it hits the floor.
I love the moment when we have Gandalf confronting Bilbo, and he gets a little acrimonious with him, and he's like, Bilbo Baggins, do not take me as some conjurer of cheap tricks. The lighting that happens on the ceiling behind him.
Yeah.
So ominous.
Well, yes. Everything just goes dark behind him.
So good. And so Bilbo leaves, and we cut to Frodo coming in.
Yeah, Frodo shows up.
And I love how Gandalf's just sitting in the chair, smoking his weed, and he's talking to himself. He's trying to remember. He's trying to figure out, is this the fucking ring? What the fuck, right? And he has all these questions. And in the meantime, Frodo's like, Bilbo really fucking did it. I talked for so long, I didn't think he'd do it, you know? And
Gandalf reveals he's left you everything.
Yeah, including this ring. And so Gandalf gets an envelope. Notice he never touches it.
Yeah, because if he had touched it, he would have probably become the next Dark Lord.
Yeah, maybe. And so they put it in the envelope, gives it to Frodo, and he tells it, keep it secret, keep it safe. And so Gandalf has to take off. He has to do his research, and he goes to Gondor. And this is the first time we see the White City, and he goes to the library.
Consulting all those old texts.
Right.
And then he finds the story of the ring and how it was forged and everything.
Right. And in that text, what really captures his attention is if you put it to fire, it should have Elvish writing on it.
Yeah.
And if it does, that means you're fucked.
So now we're back at the Shire, and Gandalf, he checks the ring.
What's his name? Frodo comes in from a drunken night of debauchery with Sam, and he notices that Bilbo's place has kind of been ransacked a little bit. It looks all kind of fucked up. And then out of nowhere, Gandalf comes out of the shadows and says, is it secret? Is it safe? Right? And I think this is one of my favorite scenes because the dialogue between Gandalf and Frodo right here and the explanation of everything is so good. He tells him that there are a lot of magical rings in the universe, and we have to be sure if this is the one or not, so give it to me. I'm going to put it in the fire. Puts it in the fire, takes it out, gives it to Frodo, and this is the bit that I'm really talking about. We're focused on Gandalf, and he asks him, do you see any markings? And Gandalf's walking toward camera, and he says, no, not at all. And then you see like a moment, just a split moment of relief on Gandalf's face, like, oh, fuck, thank God, right? And then...
oh, wait.
And then it goes to sheer terror or fear.
I almost feel like his fear isn't just that they have found the One Ring. It's that he knows he's about to fuck up Frodo's life.
And so they go through this dialogue, and he tells him that it's the One Ring, and...
that Sauron's back.
And I looked for days... for the creature Gollum, but I couldn't find him. The enemy found him first, and they got 2 words. And I like how Frodo says, Shire, Baggins. But that would lead them here. This is where Frodo tries to give Gandalf the ring. He says, take it. I don't fucking want to take it. Mm-hmm. And Gandalf, very adamant, do not offer this to me because you have to understand, I would take it in the sense of wanting to do good. But through me, you'd all be fucked. Right. So Gandalf can't take it. And then I love this line. He says, but it can't stay here. And Gandalf's like, no, it can't. And then Frodo, being the fucking trooper that he is, what must I do? And Gandalf comes up with a plan. He says, you go to the Prancing Pony and Bree. I'm going to go check in with the head of my order, and we'll meet in the middle and we'll figure it all out. But in the meantime, there's a noise outside. He's listening. I love this bit with Sam. Samwise Gamgee is probably my second or third favorite character.
He does have a lot of fun lines. He's like, what did you hear? I heard nothing. Nothing about a ring and
the Dark Lord, about the end of the world. Yeah. And Gandalf tasks Sam to stay with Frodo.
He makes him make a promise.
Right. And so we cut to them walking toward the borders. This is where they're going to split up. And I think this is where the movie does, and what Peter Jackson does so masterfully, is he's telling us these 2 stories that are congruent with each other, and he cuts in and out so well. And so Gandalf makes off for Isengard. And
I love the parting advice that Gandalf gives him. Remember, Frodo, the ring wants to be found.
It's looking for its master. Yeah. Absolutely. Very ominous. I thought to myself, all Gandalf is doing is just scaring the shit out of him over and over again.
One of the questions that people might have, viewers, listeners might have, is wearing the ring seems to, when Frodo wears it, seems to alert Sauron and have him send his ring wraiths, his Nazgul, straight at Frodo. Why didn't that happen when Bilbo wore the ring?
I don't know.
It's because Sauron wasn't fully awake at that time. It was this 60 years later that now Sauron is awake, and that's what's actually awakened the ring and caused the ring now to try to pull people towards Sauron.
Well, that's convenient.
Yeah, that's something that comes up in the book.
Yeah.
Well, I was wondering that as well.
There you go.
So.
And so during all of this, we are also told that the 9 have left Isla Morgul and searching for the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And then we cut to
Gandalf, he's traveling to Isengard.
and I like this bit with Saruman. I
Saruman.
always
It's hard to
get
get-
these fuckers
Yeah.
confused.
Yeah, why are they so similar in names? Why did you do that, Tolkien?
Mordor, Gondor, Saruman, Sauron, Aragorn, Arwen, Theoden. What's fucking... never mind. What'd you guys think of this whole bit between Sauron and Gandalf?
I definitely, I love their interactions, but right from the start, looking at Christopher Lee, you're thinking, oh, this is a fucking bad guy.
Villain, right?
He's got
Yeah.
villain all over him.
My favorite line that Christopher Lee delivers in this bit is, "What time do you think we have? The time is way later than you think." And he tells Gandalf, Mordor's already making their moves. And we're kind of shown this just a little bit. And then it comes out that Sauron says, "We can't beat him. Might as well join him." And Gandalf's like, "Oh, fuck." They get into this fight. What'd you guys think of the fight?
It was good.
Pretty badass. They were just like throwing each other around with the force and stuff.
I thought Gandalf was getting his ass kicked, and then he turns it on him, and Sauron's got to fucking cheat and take Gandalf's staff. My question is, why didn't Gandalf take his staff in the beginning? Is Saruman too powerful?
He is, because he is Sauron the White, which is the leader of the Order. He has a lot more power than Gandalf.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. And then I like how Gandalf is spinning on the ground, and Saruman says, "Hey, man, I tried to offer you peace, or I tried to offer you a piece of this pie, but instead you chose pain." And he fucking wings them all the way up.
Mhm.
And now Gandalf is a prisoner. We cut to Sam and Frodo walking.
They're walking in the cornfields.
Yep. And I love the line that Sam gives. He stops. "If I take one more step, this is the furthest I've ever been." And then naturally they keep going, and they run into...
Merry and Pippin.
What'd you guys think of this whole bit?
Fun.
They were definitely, I feel like what kind of the story needed, which was a little bit of comic relief. It's a very serious story, a very epic tale. And then you bring these two in just to add a little comedy.
Oh, and they do. They bring the fucking thunder.
Mm-hmm.
I think they are a well addition to this.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes any sense. And Frodo's standing there, and they had just fallen to collect some mushrooms, and they're talking, blah, blah, blah. And Frodo's standing there, and he kind of feels something.
His
not
spidey
right.
senses are tingling.
Yeah, let's get off the road.
And they get off the road, and we get the bit with one of the riders. I thought it was pretty ingenious to show us that even the insects are afraid of this fucking thing. Right? I guess my only question is, how does he not find them?
Yeah, me too.
He is drawn to the area of the ring, but unless Frodo is wearing the ring, or someone's basically wearing the ring, he can't find the exact location. So like he's smelling it. He knows it's there.
He was pretty fucking close to be smelling. So
Yeah.
if that's, I don't buy that either.
Yeah. They also
Come on, Tolkien, get a fucking clue.
They also kind of reveal at one point when anybody wears the ring, they're not really becoming invisible. They're kind of entering the spirit world or spirit dimension. And so really, this writer he sees in the spirit dimension. So he can't really see him with the ring until he puts on the ring and comes into the spirit world.
And so they get away and they start running, and Merry and Pippin are like, "What the fuck was that all about?"
We got to get to Buckleberry Ferry.
I think that's my favorite line in this entire series. "Buckleberry Ferry, this way," because I always call it Huckleberry Ferry.
Yeah.
Anyways, they run, and they're getting chased by the riders, and they escape. They make it to this bridge.
Narrowly escape.
And so they make their way to Bree, and we briefly get a cut back to Gandalf sitting on top of the tower. But what I like about this shot is that we start in from the ground, go up, and we get the ethereal music, and Gandalf sees a little moth, whispers to it, and then it flies away, and then the camera dips over the tower, and then we get that. And we go into where they're creating the Uruk-hai and creating the steel and the weapons, and it just kind of gives us an overview of Mordor's army getting ready, or Isengard's army getting ready. And then we cut back to the hobbits coming to Bree. They come into town, and this is where we get Peter Jackson's first cameo.
Well, I like when they get to the door and the guy's like, why the fuck are you here? And they say something, and he's like, okay, it's fine. Okay, you can come on.
It's my job to ask questions after dark, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so they go into the Prancing Pony, and they ask for Gandalf, and the guy's like, fuck, I haven't seen Gandalf in like 6 months.
Yeah, guy in a pointy hat, haven't seen him.
And they're fucking tripping, right? And they're like, what the fuck do we do now? And of what the fuck do you do now? You sit and have a pint. And
Mary, he starts going on about Frodo at the bar.
And Frodo's like, what the fuck, dude?
They also notice the guy staring at them.
Folks around him call him Strider. He's a ranger from the north. And after Pippin starts blabbing, or after, is it Mary? No, after Pippin starts blabbing his mouth, Frodo rushes to stop him. And this is another perfectly shot scene. The ring going up into the air.
He slips in the ring. Yep.
This scene always kind of bothered me how coincidentally it landed on his finger, but then I thought the ring has its own kind of life force. It has its own power. Sauron's in the ring. He could probably make it go onto his finger like that.
Oh, that's exactly what I thought. I thought the ring wants to be found.
Mm-hmm.
And so in order for it to be found, it has to be worn. And if his finger or little digits are in the air, fucking nail it, right? And so he goes into the spirit world, or whatever it is that it is, and we see it for the first time. And then he sees the eye.
Yep.
He sees the eye of Sauron, and he says, I see you.
It's more important to say, not only does he see the eye is seeing him for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, they see each other.
Yeah.
How about that? And he manages to get the ring off, and then we're introduced to Strider, who picks him up, carries him away. And I love this dialogue.
Yeah, you draw far too much attention to yourself, Mr. Underhill.
Frodo's tripping, right? He doesn't know who the fuck this guy is. And he says, I carry nothing. And Aragorn's like, yeah, no shit, you don't carry nothing, right? And the line of, are you afraid? Frodo says, yes. And Aragorn says, not nearly enough. I know what fucking hunts you. It's a chilling line. I fucking love it.
I love how, when Frodo put on the ring, it alerted the Nazgul, and it was coming straight for the town. And I love how he knocks down the door, and the poor door guy gets crushed.
Oh, right.
But the way that that next scene happens,
the petrified bartender as the Nazgul walk by.
Yeah, everybody's just petrified. But I'm thinking more of the scene that always gets me, and is kind of an oh fuck moment, is when the Nazgul starts stabbing in the beds.
Yeah, that's a wonderful deception that we get, that the hobbits are in danger.
Yes. And I love how Sam bursts in, and he's going to take on Aragorn. And Aragorn's like, you have a stout heart, little dude. But that's not going to save you. And so, they pulled a switcheroony, and Frodo was told, you can't wait for Gandalf anymore. We got to go. Where are we going to go? We're going to Rivendell.
Yep. And Strider also gives a brief history of the Nazgul, and then we get this little montage of the trip to Rivendell.
They're going to see the elves, and they have to make a stop at Weathertop. And this is where the ring wraiths find them.
Well, why do they find them?
Well, because they're hobbits. They're fucking hungry, man. They got to eat.
Yeah, and of course, they light a fire, which pisses off Frodo, who comes and kicks out the fire. Did you catch? I think it was Merry or Pippin that said it. You got ash on my potato.
Tomato.
Oh, tomato.
It was Pippin.
Pippin, okay.
Yeah.
So the ring wraiths descend upon them.
And they are cornering them.
I love the ominous music as they're getting surrounded.
Uh-huh.
so good.
And they're coming after Frodo, and he trips and falls down, and he keeps coming, and the ring wraith keeps coming at him. So Frodo thinks, I'm going to turn invisible, and that way this fucker can't see me.
Right.
What do you think of the effect of going from seeing them as the ring wraiths to now seeing them as the kings?
Yeah, well, it puts it all into place for you, right?
Mhm.
We know that these are the 9 kings, and we also know that it doesn't matter that you put it on. These agents of evil can see you because they're tied to the ring.
Mhm.
And this is where Frodo gets stabbed with a Morgul blade.
Mm-hmm.
And as he's getting stabbed and dying, Aragorn comes in, takes care of business.
He lights them all on fire.
I love the bit where there's one left and he turns his head and then he throws the torch.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah. He was badass.
This
here.
is where we really get to see just how badass he is, right, for the first time.
Yeah.
Because these are the nastiest creatures probably in Middle Earth, and he fucks them all up.
And so Frodo's hurt. They got to get him to Rivendell,
but it's 6 days away.
and they're tripping out, and Frodo's slowly slipping into the shadow world, and Sam and Aragorn are looking for King's Foil. It's a weed to slow the poison, and we are introduced to Arwen. And she says, let me take him. I'm the fastest rider. And Sam's like, no, you can't let her take her. But she does.
Speed is the key.
And they take off. And I like how as they're riding, Frodo's with Arwen. And he must be dreaming or something because he yells for Gandalf. And then we cut back to Isengard. And this is where Saruman is about to kill Gandalf.
I love that little force technique where he's hanging him over the edge.
Yeah.
It's just crazy looking.
Yeah. And Saruman's like, dude, you got to fucking join us. Right. And I like how Gandalf really puts it into perspective for him. There's only one Lord of the Ring, and he doesn't share fucking power. So he jumps off, lands on the eagle, and he takes off. Cut back to Arwen on the move.
I love when she gets to the river and she turns around and basically says to him, you want him? Fucking come get him.
And I love this whole action bit with the horses and the epic shots. And
The camera work is so good.
It's so beautiful.
Yes, the white horse with the black horses.
And you feel the tension. You feel that, they're running for their lives.
You also get a sense that she's kind of a badass herself.
Oh, I knew she was a badass because she's an elf.
Mhm.
I think all the elves are badass. They're a little prissy, but they're all badass. And they make it across the river. And I like how the river comes in and washes the Nazgul away.
I like how the effect that they use is as the river's coming in and we're seeing the white foam turns into horse heads.
Yeah.
Like it's a bunch of horses coming at them.
Yeah, absolutely. And we get the bit where, the poison's taking over. Arwen doesn't know if she can save him. Frodo, no. Big white light. And we cut to Frodo waking up. And
Why didn't you find us? I was delayed.
Yeah, he does a little flashback.
Yeah, we get a little recap of what Gandalf has been up to. So we get to see Bilbo is here. And so Frodo and Bilbo, they get to have a little chat together.
in Rivendell, Lord Elrond gathers a council of elves, men, and dwarves to determine the ring's fate. It is decided that the ring must be destroyed in the fires of Mount Doom. Frodo volunteers for the task, and a company of 9 is formed to aid him. Gandalf, Sam, Merry, Pippin, the elf Legolas, the dwarf Gimli, Boromir of Gondor, and Aragorn, who is revealed to be the heir of Isildur and the rightful king of Gondor. Before they leave, Bilbo gifts Frodo the sword Sting and a mithril chainmail shirt. The Fellowship sets off for Mordor, but is forced to change course due to Saruman's magic, which blocks their way over the mountains. They take the perilous path through the mines of Moria, where Gandalf informs Frodo that Gollum, having escaped Sauron's dungeon, is following them, seeking to reclaim the ring. In the depths of Moria, the Fellowship finds that the dwarves who once lived there have been slaughtered. As they try to escape, they are attacked by orcs and a cave troll. They barely survive the battle, only to be confronted by Durin's Bane, a Balrog that resides in the mines. The Fellowship flees, but Gandalf remains behind to hold off the beast. He casts it into an abyss, but in its final moments, the Balrog drags Gandalf down with it. The Fellowship, devastated by their loss, presses on to the forest of Lothlorien. In Lothlorien, they are received by the elf queen Galadriel, who warns Frodo that only he can complete the quest and that one of the Fellowship may try and take the ring. She shows him a vision of the future in which Sauron enslaves Middle-earth, including the Shire. Meanwhile, Saruman builds an army of Uruk-hai in Isengard and sends them to find and destroy the Fellowship.
So what do you think of this big secret council meeting?
I mean, they had to come up with a plan, right? And Elrond's the wisest and Gandalf's the second wisest. And so you would think that, they would have a way to destroy this, but they really don't. And so what they do is they invite elves, dwarves, and men to come in. And Elrond's like, this isn't going to fucking work, dude. We tried this already. And men fucking failed.
Yeah, he basically says, none of these people can carry the ring. And Gandalf knows in his head there is one who could carry the ring, who's resisted it longer than anybody else, which Bilbo was a good example of. He resisted it for 60 years. And
Gandalf says, you got to put your faith in men again. And you never know.
This is also where we get the flashback to what actually happened after Isildur, basically after he cut off the ring, he went to Mount Doom and was standing there about to destroy the ring. Elrond was basically saying, do it. Go ahead and fucking do it. And he decides, no, I'm going to keep it.
Yeah. And he tells Gandalf, I was there when the fucking will of men failed.
Yeah, they could have just ended that movie right there.
That's right. And so they're at the council. They're trying to decide what to do with it. Gimli tries to fucking destroy it, but it doesn't fucking work.
Great camera work when they're all bickering and we see the reflection of the bickering on the ring.
Yeah. And Frodo's sitting there and he's like, fuck me. All right. I'll fucking do it.
Yeah, he has to say it like 3 times before they hear him.
Yeah. And then I love Gandalf's reaction.
Absolutely.
This is one of the best nonverbal acting, I think, in the movie, was his expression of pride and sadness, deep sadness that now he knows Frodo is basically taking this on and it had to be this way, but he hates this for Frodo.
Yeah. Yeah. He felt bad for it.
You can just
so that's why he says, you know what? As long as this burden is yours to carry, I'm with you. And then immediately, Aragorn's like, if my life or by my death I can protect you, I will.
Mm-hmm.
You have my sword.
And my axe.
And my bow.
You carry the fate of us all, little one. But if this is the will of the council, Gondor will see it done. And then I love...
Did you ever at any point really trust Boromir?
No, not until the end.
I really thought... this fucker just wants the ring.
Yeah. And we were right.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sam, Merry, and Pippin come out. And they're like, Frodo's not going anywhere without us.
Well, I love how Sam first comes out and he says, not without me. And he's like, well, you even show up to a secret meeting that you weren't invited to.
Right.
And then Merry and Pippin come out and they say, well, we're going too. Elrond dubs them the Fellowship of the Ring. And one of the last lines we get in this scene is, what are we doing?
Bilbo and Frodo, they have a quick little chat. This is where he gets the sword and the mithril. And then from there...
Is it also where we get that Bilbo would like to hold the ring one more time?
One last time.
Yeah. But Frodo says no. He turns into this monster and he resists it. And so the 9 set out from Rivendell.
And montage of lots of walking.
And this is where the walking begins.
And that majestic music that's played.
That's the Fellowship theme.
I kept feeling like the way, they run to the crows and they have to keep, it felt like they were going off in one direction. Ah, fuck, we can't go this way. They turn around and go another direction. Ah, fuck, we can't go this way. Now we got to go this way. Oh, fuck.
I like the bit where they're chilling on the rock and Merry and Pippin are training.
Right. With Boromir.
With Boromir. And I'm starting to think, okay, Boromir might be all right. He might He's a man, right? He's going to get tempted.
He really likes the hobbits.
He does. He actually cares for him.
I love how they tackle him, throw him down to the ground, and they're all laughing and everything, which is funny because that same move of them tackling him is something they use in the orcs in the next movie.
And so they see a group of birds who were sent by Saruman to spy on him. And now they're debating which way to go. And you can either go through the Gap of Rohan, you can go over the Misty Mountains, or you can go to the Mines of Moria.
And Gandalf is like, fucking don't choose the Mines of Moria.
He's like, fuck that. He said, Gimli, I wouldn't go through the Mines of Moria if I didn't. I'm not going to fucking do that. And so they go, we're going to cross this fucking mountain. And more walking. Now in the fucking snow.
When they're walking in the snow, we get a moment where Frodo has the ring dropped, and Boromir is tempted by the ring at this moment.
My favorite bit in this is when Aragorn's standing behind Frodo, and you notice he's grabbing his sword because shit may go down.
Yep.
Right. Saruman and Gandalf are having a force conversation, and he tells Gandalf, I know why you don't want to go to Moria. I know what's in there. And at the same time, he's trying to bring down the mountain. And so now they have to fucking get out of there. So their way is blocked, and they got to turn around, and Gandalf is really not wanting to go through these mines.
Doesn't he let Frodo choose?
He makes Frodo fucking decide. He says, let the ring bearer decide. And Gimli's kind of been talking this up, right? I mean, we're going to be with the dwarves. You're going to have a hot meal, blah, blah, blah.
You're going to get some meat.
And Frodo says, we'll go through the mines. And so
we also get a wonderful montage of Isengard at this time, and the music and the sweeping shot that happens where Saruman, he's working, to thwart Gandalf's journey up the mountain at this time. But I really love when we get to see the progress that's being made in these long sweeping shots.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
Absolutely. And so they go to the mines, and they can't get in. And
it's a riddle, which is funny. It's a riddle on the door. Speak the
Elven word for friend.
Yeah, speak the word of friend and blah, 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 and all this. And it's appropriate that Frodo's the one that figures it out, because remember Bilbo in The Hobbit loved riddles so much.
Okay.
So maybe it's just in that family line that they're good with riddles.
Maybe. I just took it as, why didn't the fuck Gandalf didn't know it?
He was going through all his history and lore.
I know. I mean, I think he was overthinking it.
Yeah,
exactly.
He didn't realize at first that it was just a riddle.
Yeah. And there's this small little bit. It's really tiny, but I love the way Aragorn plays this. Merry's throwing rocks into the water.
Right.
And he stops him and he says, oh, dude, don't disturb what's in there. Right. Which is setting us up for something dreadful.
Yeah.
So they get the door open. They walk in. Gimli's on fucking cloud 9. Right.
So I start seeing some dead bodies.
Ugh, I know.
And let's get out of here.
But as they're trying to leave, naturally, there's this tentacle creature that comes out and forces them to go through the mines. What'd you guys think of the mine bit?
I love the pullback shot that we get when we first start walking, and then we just see just how vast the mines are.
Yeah, I agree. And Gandalf gives everybody a warning, says it's 4 days to the other side. So let us hope that we go unnoticed.
Mm-hmm. When they finally get to the room where we find that Gimli's cousin is dead in that big tomb-looking thing.
Before we get to that, we get to the three passageways, and Gandalf, he's momentarily, I don't remember being here, and he doesn't necessarily know which way to proceed. And this is where we get Frodo spotting Gollum for the first time.
Yes.
And this is actually a really big scene, because Frodo's like, oh man, Bilbo should have killed that fucker. And Gandalf's like, no, he spared his life. Gollum has a part to play in this fucking story, whether good or bad. We just don't know it yet. So Bilbo not killing Gollum may have saved the world.
May have.
So
I love the camera work that we get on Gandalf when he is talking to Frodo. It's a really tight shot, and Gandalf, he just looks so wise, and it's just this beautiful, intimate camera shot. And listening to the gentleness of his voice, and Gandalf just looks super wise. And I think it's during this time that he gives one of the best lines, out of Gandalf in general. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that's given to us.
Yeah, and it's going to come back around. And so Gandalf finally remembers the way, because the air isn't as foul this way, and they make their way through the mines.
And then this is where Gimli discovers the Tomb of Balin.
And this I thought was interesting. I didn't know this right away, but I actually met one of the dwarf actors from the Hobbit movies, and he explained it to me that in this little tomb area, you see the one that's holding the book. That is representative of one of his character in the Hobbit movie. That is where all the dwarfs died from the original Hobbit movie.
That's what I figured, because it was Balin, and Balin is in the Hobbit movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah. They find out they're all died. They took a record of it, and then marry Pippin. And then Pippin wants to be inquisitive.
This is one, I think, of the funniest scenes, or the funniest fuck-ups of Pippin, is when he knocks over the little piece or whatever, little armor into the thing, and then takes the whole suit of armor, and it's like dunk, 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 dunk. And then
the chain.
Yeah, and you hear a little pause, and then it keeps going. You keep seeing Pippin going, shit, shit, shit.
I'm so fucking annoyed. You know what? You just rang the fucking dinner bell, dickhead.
And I love Gandalf's reaction to the whole thing.
Throw yourself down there next time. Kind of harsh.
And so you have Boromir. He investigates outside, and he gets those arrows right next to his head.
I love his next line.
They have a cave troll.
So good. So just nonchalant about it.
Nonchalant.
Like, God damn it.
I like Gimli basically says, bring it the fuck on.
Oh, he's pissed, right? He wants to kill all these motherfuckers.
Yeah.
And so we get like the first real battle sequence.
And what a battle it is.
It's fucking great. It's shot beautifully. It's paced really well. You can see Legolas being a badass. You can see Gimli and Boromir and Aragorn being a badass. And the hobbits even get in on it too a little bit. Sam's using his frying pan. But my favorite move is when Legolas jumps on top of the cave troll and takes the 2 arrows.
Totally.
And goes right down. It should have fucking killed him. Doesn't, but it should have. But it was a great move. Great move.
Badass.
And so they narrowly escape. And as they're running, you can see all the orcs and goblins and whatever creatures are in there chasing them, and they're coming from all sides, and then they get surrounded.
Love the orcs that come down from the ceiling.
Yeah, so good. You see them.
Little spider walk.
Yeah, coming down the columns.
Absolutely. So
and then
good.
they hear that roar.
And I love that roar. I love this bit because the sound design for it is so good. Apparently they used a cinder block and drug it across something to give the Balrog that bass. Like when he opens his mouth and he roars, it's a cinder block being dragged across something. And so the Balrog scares all the other creatures away, and the fellow's like, oh, fuck. And so they start taking off. And I like this bit with the stairs. They say, we got to get to that bridge.
Yes.
Which that bridge reminded me a lot of The Last Crusade. But anyways, they get to the stairs, and I like this bit because it's so harrowing. And
the music is so good here.
And the Balrog's actually just kind of breaking everything apart because he's so fucking big.
Well, I keep thinking, because I've said before, I don't like heights. I really, really don't like heights. And I kept thinking I would be fucked at this point because I don't think I'd be able to run across those little bridges or whatever, do the whole stairs thing, all of that. I would have been like, nope, leave me behind. I'll fight the Balrog.
Those ridiculously huge stairs so far up, and there's no railings on them.
Not at all. And then they start to break. And then they have to jump from one to the other. And it was very tense. And so they're running and they get across the bridge. And this bit breaks my heart. The Balrog's coming across the bridge. Everyone else is making their way up the stairs, trying to get out of there. And Gandalf sacrifices himself to save the Fellowship. And so that iconic line that when you hear it, you know what it's fucking from. You shall not pass. And motherfucker didn't pass.
you almost think Gandalf has won for a second when the Balrog starts falling down.
Brief second.
The
Yeah.
brief second, and then you see that whip come up and just grab him by the leg.
And then you're like, oh, man.
Yeah.
Gandalf's the man.
And then his line.
Fly, you fools. They fucking take off.
And-
And then Frodo's reaction.
Frodo just loses it.
Yeah. They make it outside and they're just fucking devastated.
Crushed.
And even Aragorn's like, oh, fuck, man, we got to go, right? By nightfall, this place is going to be crawling with orcs.
But it's Boromir that basically says, give them some fucking time.
I love that bit. I love it because it shows Boromir cares. And then we get to Lothlorien, and this is the bit that really drags for me. I think this bit, I understand why it's there, but it really slows us down. And after the first time I saw this movie, this is the bit where I get up and go pee. So
this whole scene is built up a lot more of its purpose in the book than it is in the movie, because there was a lot more to it. In Galadriel giving them a history, Galadriel giving them gifts, and really kind of reigniting the passion within Frodo to keep going. Because at this point, he even says he's ready to hand over the ring to her. If she asked for it, he would give it to her just to be done with this.
right.
Gladriel, she when she chats with Frodo, she lets him know what's at stake here and what he needs to do. And I really like when she tells him that, this task was appointed to you, and if you do not find a way, no one will. Meanwhile, back in Isengard, we have Sauron. He tells us, do you know how the orcs first came into being? And then with that, we get this little, montage of the orcs, with the white face.
The white hands of Sauron.
Yeah.
Sauron did it again. And so he sends out, he says, go find him.
One of these halflings have something of great value. Bring them to me alive and unspoiled.
I always thought that was a nice line.
Yeah.
But you can eat man flesh.
And I love that sweeping shot that we get showing the Orc army leaving Isengard. They're running up the ramp.
Yep. And so the fellowship gets ready to leave.
They set off in those boats.
The fellowship travels by river to Parth Glen, where Frodo wanders off and is confronted by Boromir. Overcome by the ring's power, Boromir tries to take it from Frodo, confirming Galadriel's warning. Frodo escapes, realizing that the ring is beginning to corrupt even his friends. At that moment, the Uruk-hai attack the fellowship. Boromir, breaking free of the ring's influence, defends Merry and Pippin, but is mortally wounded by the Uruk-hai leader. Aragorn kills the leader, but Boromir succumbs to his wounds, asking Aragorn to protect Gondor. Meanwhile, Merry and Pippin are captured and taken by the Uruk-hai. Fearing that the ring will corrupt his remaining companions, Frodo decides to continue his journey to Mordor alone. However, Sam refuses to leave his side, reminding Frodo of his promise to Gandalf to look after him. The two set off toward Mordor together. As Frodo and Sam journey toward the Dark Lands, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli choose to abandon the quest for the ring and instead pursue the Uruk-hai to rescue Merry and Pippin. The fellowship is broken, but each of its members continue their own path in the war against Sauron. Frodo and Sam make their way down the pass of Imul, their long and perilous journey to Mount Doom just beginning. Roll credits. So we're traveling down the river. And Frodo has a dilemma, right? He's got to go. But in the meantime, they're at camp. They're kind of resting. And
Waiting for darkness.
Because that's what Aragorn wants to do. He wants to travel under darkness. And Legolas is like, nah, man, we got to go now.
Frodo goes off to get some wood.
From Boromir?
Well, if he can get wood for anybody, it's going to be Sam. But
That's a good point. Well, maybe Merry and Pippin. But we'll talk about that when we get to 3. And this is the bit where Boromir is like, come on, dude. Let me have the fucking ring.
Well, he starts off with sounding so sensitive, like, Gandalf unfairly put you on this quest and to carry such a heavy burden. We could just end that now.
Why don't you just let me borrow it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Frodo's like, nah, man, you can't fucking have it. And Boromir is like, you little motherfucker, I'm going to take it. And he tries to take the fucking ring.
Mm-hmm.
And Frodo puts on the ring to escape.
The eye sees Frodo, and Frodo, he takes the ring off.
And he falls down. And just as he's falling down, or when he gets down, Aragorn's there. And right away, Frodo's like, back up, dude. Boromir's tried to take the ring. Are you going to try to take the fucking ring too?
Yeah, no touchy.
I love Aragorn's response. Dude, I swore to protect you. And then Frodo holds out the ring. He's going to give it to Aragorn.
Yep.
And Aragorn comes up,
cradles his hand.
And that look and this line, I would have followed you to the end.
Mm-hmm.
So good. It's so heartbreaking.
Well, I love that he instantly got it, what Frodo was trying to say to him.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. As they're trying to say their goodbyes, Sting turns blue, and Aragorn's like, go, get the fuck out of here. I'll take care of this.
And then when Sam turns and runs, and then you have Aragorn, he turns around, and there's like 20, no, like 30 or 40 of, and he's just looking at him like, come on.
And we slow down the picture a little bit, and he makes the turn. He pulls out that fucking sword, and he's all right. You're right, dude. Come on, fuckers. Let's do it. And in the meantime, Frodo's running, and he hides behind this tree, and he sees Merry and Pippin. And this is another bit. He looks over, and Merry and Pippin are like, come on, dude, hide over here. And he shakes his head like, no, man, I got to go.
Pippin gets it.
Yeah. He says he's leaving. And so what does Merry do? No. What does Pippin do?
We're over here.
Yeah. He fucking just causes a distraction. I mean, that's fucking friendship. That's fucking ride or die. I got your back there. They're telling the orcs to come after him. And so
they didn't think that through very well.
No, they did not.
I wanted to have like a scene when Pippin did that. I want to have Merry look and go, what the fuck?
Right. And so Frodo takes off. Merry and Pippin are about to get killed.
Well, they kind of try to fight a little bit.
They do, but this orc is coming up like a bastard, and he's going to fucking brain him, which he's not listening to Sauron. Unspoiled, right?
Mm-hmm.
Alive and unspoiled.
Right. And anyways, Boromir comes in,
dun, 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 dun.
redeems himself.
This was, we talk about badass scenes. Every time Boromir took an arrow and then got the fuck back up.
Oh, he's the fuck.
That you talk about tears in your eyes. That was something that was really hard for me to watch because he's fucked, but he's going to give it all he can.
Yeah.
Badass.
And then we cut back to Aragorn still whooping ass, and now Gimli and
Mr. Badass himself.
Gimli and Legolas are joining the fun.
Oh my gosh. Love watching Legolas go with the arrows.
His first arrow, he sticks it through the eye, takes the same arrow, uses a bow, kills 2 orcs with 1 arrow. He's the fucking man, right? And it only gets better throughout the trilogy. And then we hear the Horn of Gondor.
Yep.
Where Boromir's asking for help. But it's too much. He gets overrun. And then that big looking motherfucker, Lutz or whatever.
Well, this is the again, when I talk about the heartbreak for Boromir, is the moment he realized he can't do anymore. And, he basically just falls to his knees as Merry and Pippin are grabbed.
Mm-hmm.
And just that look of I failed in his eyes.
Totally. And so this big orc is lining his shot up.
I love it how the other orcs, they just stream past Boromir. They just leave him there.
Yeah, they got their price. They got the halflings, which they think is who they're supposed to get.
You are so dead. You're not even worth the time.
That's right. So they take off. And I'm thinking, oh, is Boromir going to get one right between the eyes? No. Aragorn comes in and saves him. And I like this fight because it's quick and it's to the point. We've already gone through the mines. We've 2.5 hours into this fucking flick. Let's wrap this up, right? Ultimately, Aragorn decapitates this motherfucker, and he goes to Boromir's aid, and like we mentioned before, tears every single fucking time.
Yep.
I love the lines that Boromir gives.
He tells Aragorn, I tried to take the ring, man. I'm so sorry. I tried to take the fucking ring. And he goes, I'm depressed because we're going to watch the White City fall and we failed our people, or I failed the people, blah, blah, blah. And Aragorn says, I don't know what kind of strength I have in my blood, but I promise you, I will not let the White City fall. And he's got tears coming down, and that gives Boromir such hope. This is such a beautifully written scene. And he says, I would have followed you, right? Well, we gave you shit in the beginning and blah, 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 but my brother, my captain, my king. And he dies. And what Aragorn does next is just so Aragorn, right? Closes his eyes and he says, "Be at peace, son of Gondor." Kisses him on the forehead. Says goodbye.
There's one more thing that if you blink, you'll miss it. But there's a big thing he does for Boromir.
Gives him his knife, gives him his sword.
No, he takes Boromir's arm guards.
Oh, yeah.
And he puts it on his own arms.
When he's getting ready.
If you watch the rest of the movies, and even the scene where Arwen is given a vision of the future of Aragorn dead, he's still wearing those arm guards that he took from Boromir.
Yeah, I noticed that when at the next scene when they're gearing up, he's tying them.
Yep.
I'm like, oh, those were fucking Boromir's. He's the man. Now we cut to Frodo sitting on the shore, and he's having this dilemma, this debate. And I love this scene. It's a callback to when they're in the Mines of Moria. He's lost. He doesn't have Gandalf. Doesn't know what to do. He knows he's got to leave. And he's sitting there thinking, and we go back to the conversation and goes where he says, "I wish none of this happened."
Kind of does the Force Ghost thing.
A little bit. And I don't know if this is a memory or if Gandalf's really talking to him, but you know what? I don't fucking care because it plays. And I love this. This is another kind of teary moment for me, is when Frodo gets in the boat and he takes off, and Sam's running after him. He's like,
not
"Mr.
having any
Frodo,
of it."
Mr. Frodo. And Frodo goes,
I'm going to Mordor alone.
"Of course you are. And I'm coming with you." That's right. And then, Frodo almost lets Sam drown, but he doesn't. And when Sam's in the boat and he says, I made a promise. Don't you leave him, Samwise Gamgee. And I don't mean to. They hug it out and they take off. And then we cut back to
Our trio.
and Gimli's like, "Fuck, we failed, man." And Aragorn's like, "Well, we had to let Frodo go. We had to let him do his own thing." And they're kind of like, "Oh, that's fucked up." But then Aragorn says what I'm thinking this whole time. We will not let Merry and Pippin suffer and die. All right? Travel light. Let's hunt some orc.
And I love the look on Gimli's face, like, yeah.
And did you notice both Gimli and Legolas look at each other like, "All right, fucker, it's on." It's so good.
Is that where you think it started with who could kill more?
It might have. Maybe. It might have. And then we cut to Frodo and Sam make it to shore when they start walking, and they're on the top of a mountain, and they're looking over
Towards the Darklands.
toward the Darklands. And Sam says, or Frodo says, "I don't know if we'll ever see our friends again," trying to be real. And Sam's like, "We just might, Mr. Frodo. We just might." And then it fucking ends.
And all they really needed to do was find a fucking moth, call a fucking eagle, and fly to fucking Mordor.
Oh, we're going to get into that when we talk about Return of the King.
Oh.
Trust me. There's lots of things that we can talk about. And that is Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. All right. What do you guys think? You guys are ready to rate this flick?
I'm ready to rate this flick. What about you, John? You ready to rate this flick?
You shall not pass up this opportunity for my amazing review.
Professor, how do we do our ratings?
We do our ratings on a scale of 1 to 5 fucks. 5 fucks is a movie that we think is cinematic gold. A 1 fuck movie is where you get done watching it and you're like, I'm never watching that again.
And what's a 0?
A 0 fuck movie is where you get done watching it, you turn to your buddy and you're like, oh, for shit's sake, what the hell? Why would you make me watch? I want 2 hours and 58 minutes of my life back.
Or in other words, we just don't give a fuck. Hey, John, your movie, your review.
Before I do, Don, would you like to guess my rating?
4.75 fucks.
Is that your final answer?
That's my final answer.
Peter Jackson did the impossible. He took Lord of the Rings, one of the most epic and beloved novels of all time, and made a movie that actually feels worthy of the title. The Fellowship of the Ring isn't just a fantasy film. It's a fully immersive experience, pulling you into Tolkien's world with breathtaking landscapes, masterful storytelling, and an all-star cast that brings the legendary characters to life. Elijah Wood nails Frodo's inner turmoil and strength, while Ian McKellen as Gandalf commands every scene he's in. Viggo Mortensen's Aragorn makes being a badass look effortless, and Christopher Lee delivers a seriously sinister performance as Sauron. Every performance feels like it was ripped straight from the pages of the novel. And let's talk about Howard Shore's score, an absolute masterpiece that still gives me chills to this day. Pair that with New Zealand's sweeping landscapes standing in for Middle-earth, and you get a film that feels like pure magic. The epic Lord of the Rings movie series sets the gold standard for fantasy films. What Star Wars did for sci-fi, Lord of the Rings did for fantasy. It's for those reasons I'm giving Fellowship of the Ring 4.75 fucks.
Bam! Fucking nailed it. It's about fucking time. You're me there, guy.
I think you should go next.
Okay, I'll go next. The Fellowship of the Ring is a masterfully told epic saga and a fantastic beginning to what I think is 3 of the most game-changing films ever made. Peter Jackson does a great job bringing the fantasy world together. Howard Shore creates a wonderful and epic score. The cast is perfect. We have gushed about this movie all night. The only thing that keeps it from being perfect for me is the Lothlorien bit and going to see Galadriel. I think it slows us down. I mean, I don't know what much it adds, but that's just me. So I'm giving Fellowship of the Ring 4.75 fucks.
All right. Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring is a fantastic movie. I could not remember ever thinking anything less than this movie being 5 fucks, and I'm still right there. It's a 5 fuck movie. Watching it for the first time in the theater completely blew me away. The music, the tone, the characters, the actors. It is such a masterful piece of cinematic gold that I think that this is just such a good watch that if you haven't seen the movie before, it really is worth the watch because it is such good storytelling and it is so moving. I love this movie.
Cinematic gold from the Professor. With 5 fucks from the Professor, 4.75 fucks from both the comic book guy and myself. That gives the Fellowship of the Ring an average of 4.8 fucks, which now puts it in the 3rd spot, tied with The Exorcist, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Kill Bill Volume 1, Ghostbusters, and Lethal Weapon. It is slightly better than Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Kill Bill Volume 2, The Train to Busan, Die Hard, The Shawshank Redemption, and Elf. And it is slightly worse than Raiders of the Lost Ark, The Dark Knight, Jaws, Star Wars, and Back to the Future. So there you have it, boys. All right, that is going to wrap it up for this episode of 3 Guys in a Flick. If you would like to know which movie we're going to be reviewing next, please check out the website. Speaking of which, hey, John, where can they find us?
They can find us at 3guysinaflick.com, where I go ahead and post all of our show notes, all of our podcasts, and there's a form on there where you can submit a movie you'd like to go in the Bronco helmet for us to review next. You can also find us at all of social media, and something new I'm doing is on Tuesdays, I plan on posting on X the movie we are reviewing next because that's coming out that week. So if you want to know what's coming out on Thursday, check out on Tuesday our social media account. You can also find us at any place that hosts podcasts. And while you're listening to us, go ahead and leave us a comment, subscribe, give us a good rating. And if you want, you can go ahead and submit there what movie you'd like us to review next.
All right. I just want to thank Ezra S. and Matthew O. for throwing this into the Bronco helmet. Please keep in mind that the Two Towers and the Return of the King are still in there. So we will
cross that bridge when we get to it.
All right. I also want to thank anyone who listens and who has suggested a movie. If you keep listening, we'll keep recording. For 3 Guys in a Flick, I'm Don.
I'm John.
And I'm Ken. Thanks for listening.
Three guys with some mics, yeah, dive into the flicks. We're here for the real talk, no time for the tricks. Starn as the captain, steering us right. Kid drops now to shedding light. John with the comics, bringing the hype. From the good, the bad, to the absurd, we break it down, make sure you heard. Passion for the screen, we ride or die about movies. You know, we always give a fuck, no lie.
It's a good movie.
I'm always talking shit about it, and there is a bit to talk shit about, and I will when we get there. But overall, fantastic start. Coming to you from the Prancing. Thank you.
I was thinking of the other thing we were talking about. It was like almost a year to get to Mordor.
There's so much fucking walking. One ring to rule them all. That will always, forever. Thank you, Kevin Smith. Remind me of Clerks 2.
We'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
That's good. Because, you know, the bridge in Moria.
Yes.
You shall not pass. That one was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
I thought we did good. That was a fun show.
Anyway, you want to wrap this fucker up?
I'm working on it. All right, it's time. What do you got?
I have, I believe, 3 and a bonus one.
So 4. All right, I'll give you mine. Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Cockring.
Not bad. I have The Whore of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Fling.
That's a good one. The Horror of the Rings. God damn it.
You want to know my next one?
No.
Or do you have another one?
Go.
I have Lord of the Kinks, Fellatio of my thing. And I have The Lord of the Rims, Finger in my ding.
I'm not sure I understand that one completely, but I love it. What was your bonus one?
The bonus one is, remember the book that Bilbo is writing and what the title of that book was?
A Hobbit's Tale, The Journey Home or whatever?
There and Back Again.
Oh, There and Back Again, yeah.
I had There and Back Door Again, A Hobbit's Tale.
All right. May all of your days and nights be filled with happiness. All right. Fuck up. Good night.
Tune in, feel the thrill, catch the vibe. As three guys in a flick, keep the passion alive. Fuck that.